Good morning, guys. Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate that. Got a little tan while I was out there. A little bit of strength in crude oil this morning, even though my XOM didn't gap up too much. Yeah, wedding was beautiful. Wedding was beautiful. 100 plus family members, super nice. The notable thing that happened in the overnight session was the gap down in the memory stocks. I also have a short from yesterday in GDX. We'll see kind of how this ends up playing out over the next few days. Thank you, thank you. No honeymoon just yet. Honeymoon is coming. Thank you. So the big one is the memories. Obviously, the QQQ, or should I say the NQ, down 2.5%. Right? Is that right? 2.15 actually. S&P 500 down 1.7. Man, we are hugging that 200 simple moving average. Let's find out. BATL is halted. Holy cow. This thing went all the way to $35 this morning. What the hell? Gotta love a good low float. Unbelievable. BATL, they doing an offering $5.50. Ain't that something? Holy cow. Talk about a way to destroy that stock. RGV, what's up, brother? Hopefully you were trading well out there. I know it's crazy because like you could try to get yourself positioned, and then a lot of people are dealing with this gap down in the overnight session, which just kind of sucks. But I thought a lot of nice stocks out there, like this VIAV, not bad. AAOI, like this was awesome too. And we were looking at it down here. Kind of a miss. OUST is a potential EP. Yeah, if it was going to be an EP, it would have at least gapped over the 200 simple moving average this morning. Who knows? The hell knows what happens. Like I'm over here looking at energy gapping up, and then on the other hand, I'm looking at an SLB, and this thing is gapping down in pre-market. HAL. Gapping down in pre-market. That's kind of odd considering crude oil's up. My XOM's literally gone nowhere. KRMN. This yesterday's price action on KRMN looks a lot like ONDS. CRCL. Now that's a nice one. CRCL. Big gap up on huge volume. And then just take off from there these past couple days. Nice change in character for CRCL. We'll see if Bitcoin can continue to show some relative strength. GLW, there's no setup here. Excuse me. Yeah, I would actually kind of expect that if the memory names get hit a little hard, then we probably see something a little bit similar in the optic/photonic stocks as well. I don't think you continue to go vertical in these names like an LITE if money starts to leave like the memory names as well. I feel like a lot of them will just move together. Same money flow. It's just kind of my thinking. Same pool of capital, right? And they've just been rotating from one theme into the next, into the next, into the next. And you probably get a little bit of a slowdown in these names too. Yeah, Dell is on watch. Kind of rough, man. Just to gap these things all the way back down into the HVC. What a crummy market if you bought this thing yesterday. Nokia. Wow. I know NVIDIA owns a good chunk of Nokia. But just some ugly action. It looks so good for a moment, and then it gives so much of it back. LHX, L3 Harris. Yeah, this is in the ITA related group. So aerospace and defense. And then you'll obviously look at like an RTX and you'll look at a North Group Gunman, NOC. These things are all performing well. Yeah, that would kind of be my thinking, Ivan. If we lose memory and optics, that would probably lead to an actual market correction. Yeah. The last thing missing here is NVIDIA breaking this range. You know, NVIDIA starts to lose that 170 level, and then it probably doesn't get too pretty. Rocket Lab. You sold LMT yesterday. Why did you sell it all? You bought it on Thursday. You sold it all? Yeah, I mean, I don't see why it can't run more. It's just above an ascending 20. BWXT I like as well. I was looking at this setup yesterday. Yeah, not bad for the one of the nuclear names. They make components for nuclear reactors, if I'm not mistaken. A little bit more sideways here, and then eventually up over that 219 level. Looks pretty good. PL. Yeah, acted decent, but then the gap down. You know, they're just making it so damn ugly. SABR? Nah. Still below a falling 200 and kind of illiquid. Straight 17 million bucks a day. My thinking on rare earths now, what's MP look like? MP's done a really nice job holding this 200. UAMY is kind of a crummy one, but hanging in there. CRML, not that great. Probably MP would be the one I would play. MP or UUUU. I mean, some of them look good. Just depends which ones you'd play and how you plan on getting involved. It's doing a nice job holding the 50-day. HSAI. Chinese equity, right? Chinese stock. I don't know. You know, the problem with some of this stuff is like the gaps. It's just so choppy. It's just so choppy. Yeah, I'm still short Netflix, although it's a much smaller position. So even getting kind of caught in that gap up, while it sucked, wasn't really the end of the world. I still have so I have AVGO on the short side. I have Netflix on the short side. I have VLO long. I have XOM long, and I have GDX short. So I shorted it right in here yesterday. And got a nice little gap down. So I do think that if the dollar has bottomed, we're going to see some pressure in metals. And it does appear that maybe the dollar has bottomed. So it's like the most under-owned the dollar has been in. Let me see if I can find this stat. Hold on. Institutions are the least long dollar in the last 26 years. So feels like a pretty decent little contrarian play. And a lot of people still love their gold. Too late to go long SQQQ. I mean, I had it a few days ago, and then I ended up getting stopped out. Yeah, I mean, with this gap up, yeah, I probably won't chase it. I don't really care to chase a gap up in this market. Or if I want a short, I don't care to chase a gap down. Denison, not bad. I want to say I used to have a 500,000 shares of this name at $1. Would be nice to still own those. FSLY, yeah, keep an FSLY on your radar. This is the kind of name that, you know, when the market gets its act together is the exact name you want to be in. You know, the real question becomes, how the hell do you get involved? Right? How do you go ahead and buy it? Not a bad move. GFS. Looks like it might have bottomed already too. Another semiconductor to the group. Yeah, I actually was looking at FIG, but I actually like FIGs even more. FIGS, man, this thing is, now you're talking. It's been beaten up, but huge volume coming into this thing. Have I flipped slightly bearish on the market yet? I think if and when the market is below the 200-day, then I'll feel a little bit. Here's one of the things. I don't want to get too overly bearish because there are stocks still working. It's just not in the groups that, you know, most of us would be excited about, right? Oil and gas. I haven't quite looked at the XLV, right? XLV doesn't look terrible just yet. Pharmaceuticals still look pretty decent, although they're gapping down today. If we start to like lose the SMH, then yeah, we probably have some problems because we're losing the XLF. You also have consumer staples continuing to act well, but I don't want to say I'm negative on the market because there are still groups acting well. That's kind of my thinking here. IYT, what's transportation doing? Yeah, IYT transportation still looks pretty good. I know MDY is gapping down, quite a bit, but the MDY still looks fairly decent. So it just depends, right? I don't really want to put too much attention onto the QQQ, even though growth names are what I'd prefer to trade, until the QQQ can kind of break out of this disgusting range. Today, we're gapping a little bit below it. We do have the 200-day as some support. I personally keep hoping and praying that we can come down to these prior highs. My hope and prayer is that we can get down to, if we could just finish chopping around here. If we could finish chopping around here and make our way down here, that would be the most ideal. Just a little bit more drawn out where you've got your highs of 2021. Eventually you go back and retest those. And then you've got your highs of 2025. And eventually you go back and you grind down to test those. That would be like a pretty awesome scenario, right? I don't want this to have to be like a lost year, but would normally come on the other side of that would be like a really good market, right? Or a market that's no longer going down. But we've already been going sideways since October, and here we are now in March, and it'd be nice if, by August we can kind of get this slow grind down over with, reset some charts, and, we can go from there. Saw Palantir moving yesterday too. XWEL short? No, I mean, maybe for you, too thin for me. I don't really see the setup to short it though. It's not super parabolic just yet. BE's a bit choppy. If BE can come into the 50-day and undercut these lows, I'd be pretty thrilled about that. Undercut 130 and then start to turn back up. That would be the nice spot. You bought NTLA yesterday? Nice job. Don't know that this is a name that I would have personally bought, but this is NTLA is a genomics name, right? ARKG. Genomics got some work to do. It depends. What names do you even have on your radar that are at those levels or that you think could go down to those levels? I don't ever want to say it's a good day to try an undercut because we have to kind of get down to that level. And then the stock has to start to respond on a smaller time frame so you can play the UNR. And then, like, if I'm going to play, let's say, an aerospace and defense stock, like, let's say for whatever reason, and I don't know what Rocket Lab looks like today, but let's say Rocket Lab was giving a UNR, right? Like, let's just say by chance Rocket Lab's going to come down to like this $64 level. If we're going to start to undercut that and then rally back through, I would want to ask myself, is the market starting to try and catch a bid itself or at least done going down? And are there other aerospace and defense stocks, trying to also turn back up like PL, KTOS, ASTS, etc.? Can I explain why short AVGO? Very simple. Shorts, I've been kind of talking about this now, especially in the room for several weeks. If you wanted to get short, and I'll show you like 10 examples, shorting against the declining or flattening 50 simple moving average, price has led lower. So when we got this rally up to 340, well, it's really 350, but 347 was my entry, right? This was just a very simple rally into the 50 and then start to roll over right in here, right? That was it. And my risk effectively was from 347 up to high of day, right? 1.5% risk on my shares, which is teeny tiny, right? Like even a 10% position, I've got less than 0.2% in terms of risk. And then just use the 50-day as my guide on the short, right? And it hasn't broken down in some huge way, but it has not been able to reclaim the 50 simple moving average. And then if you looked at a name like, let's just say Uber, right? What did it do when it rallied up into the declining 50 simple moving average? It rejected. It ran into the declining 50 simple moving average. It rejected and went lower. What did, let's say, even a MSTR do right here? Ran into a declining 50 simple moving average. Then what? Then it rolled over. Then what happened? Even a Coinbase runs into a declining 50 simple moving average and then rolls over. What about some of the quantums, right? Runs into, or I guess a better example would be like Rigetti, but runs into a declining 50 simple moving average and then ultimately rolls over. So the basic idea is that stocks are running into supply at the 50-day. I want to get short against that 50-day and then use that as my guide as, you know, we're in a market that's undergoing distribution. Simple, right? Don't overthink it. You're going to be noticing a lot of stocks that are doing the exact same thing despite the industry group that they're in, right? Despite the industry group that they're in. I don't know if Netflix did something similar, but close enough. Rallies back up near the 50 simple moving average and then rejects. Didn't quite do it here because you got that good news, but I am still short Netflix. But at this point, it's a much trimmed position, so it really doesn't matter. Well, I don't have any long positions that are not in the profit anymore. I've been off the desk for a handful of days, so I haven't been getting myself involved into new positions. If I, let's say, bought something on Friday or yesterday and it were gapping below prior day low, I would wait the first 5 minutes and use a 5-minute opening range break low as a stop. But I don't have any longs at the moment because my longs are in the energy space. I've been long, for instance, a VLO for weeks now. I got long VLO on the 3rd of February. I got long XOM, and these are my only longs at the moment, going back to December 19th. So I've been sitting in a lot of these stocks for what seems like a long time. So yeah, I mean, there's not really a lot for me to think about here. I am seeing a lot of nice potential stocks, whether it be Modine or TER or, you know, still the memories I think could be interesting in a few more weeks if they continue to digest well. You know, the optic names are obviously awesome. AOI was almost one that I bought here as a higher low setup. It was on my nightly watch list and I just didn't buy it. You know, so there are names that are shaping up and then they're going higher. So, yeah, I mean, but if I bought something yesterday and then I was dealing with a bit of a gap down, you know, I would be looking to take my exit on a new position. Why didn't I cover Netflix? I was in Mexico, right? I was gone. So I saw that news, you know, when I was off my phone. I wasn't really paying attention to the markets. I have a small position, so I don't truly care that much. I mean, obviously seeing something gap up $20, like, you know, it sucks, right? Like from the lows, it's up $20, but I'm still sitting on a 112 and I did such a nice job covering about 80% of my shares on the way down. So not much else I can do. Just going to let it work. Yeah, I mean, for all we know, Netflix can continue to roll back over. Capital One Financial looks horrible. I really wouldn't short anything into the hole. I would wait for a pushback into a declining moving average at some point. And then Carvana, yeah, this thing was awesome when it lost the 50 as well. So it's really good on what is this, Friday the 30th. I don't really see anything to do with Carvana here, even though it probably does go lower. Yeah, this Form. Probably another name to keep an eye on down the road. I thought Form was really great down here. $60, huge move. Massive. Oh, wow. Nice job on AOI. How would I deal with it now? It's a little bit extended from the 50. Yeah, 17 and a half times. Honestly, I would have probably exited the entire position yesterday. You were about 20 times its ATR from the 50 yesterday. For me, that's just to count your blessings, get the hell out, and then look for another entry down the road in a couple of weeks. Right? In pre-market, I would have been getting out of this thing completely, or right at the open. 109. Like, I wouldn't be looking to hold this thing, 20 points, 30 points lower when you're this extended from the 50. You now need an entirely new consolidation. Nice job getting into it, though. When you trim after 3 to 5 days, the day of the breakout is day 1 or day 0. Day 1. Yeah, day 1. And ultimately, again, it depends what group is the stock in. How is my stock acting when the market's, pulling back? Yeah, this is kind of weird that oil and gas is up on the overnight, and there is some weakness in the oil and gas stocks. I'd probably just leave it alone for now, honestly. Maybe you can buy it as a 20 SMA UNR, but you could just wait for it to go sideways a few more days. It's kind of odd that it's acting like this with oil and gas up. Yeah, I don't think if the market's actually going to go down 12 or 15%, I think we'll still have plenty of time to get short. ATI, I really like this name as a long too, way back here. 102, went to 160s. Wow. I don't know that I would short this name, although, who knows? Setup on Palantir. What's the setup on Palantir? I don't really see it. Depends. I don't know if you're short biased or bull biased, but I don't really see a bullish setup if that's what you're asking. RDNT. Needs a little bit more momentum. Thanks, man. Married life's treating me well. Yeah, just a couple of days in, so hopefully I could live to tell the story. What do I think about shorting MO? So the cigarette company? Nah. I mean, it probably needs to consolidate here anyway before trying to go higher. But the name's in an uptrend, and not even really a fast one. It's not even super extended from anything. Maybe. I see what you're saying. You like treating this as like a double top short sale. Could be. It's gapping below that level. 68.5 roughly. Oof, you didn't take any profits on ONDS? What was this move yesterday? I mean, at one point it was up 22.5%. I don't know where you would have bought this, but if you bought this thing like right over pre-market highs, 1060s, and you caught like a 10, 15, 16% move, and didn't take anything off. You know, that's tough, but. And maybe today it starts to go right back up for you, but tough. Stop at low of day. No, but I kind of tweeted about this. Oof, EWY. Holy shit, mate. Yeah, I talked about this yesterday. If the dollar keeps going higher, this is actually going to hurt emerging markets. Yep. What is it? EWC. MDP, you know, what's crazy is they actually had good earnings too. Good earnings, and they do this. 26%. Holy shit. Spotify's at the declining 50. Yeah, I mean, look at what it did yesterday. It rejected the 50 yesterday, right? And a good entry could have been right there with your stop at high of day. And now you got a gap down. It literally hit the 50 and then started to roll over. Thank you, Alec. Appreciate that. Thank you, guys. Where do I prefer to park cash, not invested? No, I just sit in cash. I try to get fully invested. Copper HG. I want to see what this is doing. Is this gapping down like the rest? Yeah, gapping down. I don't really see exactly what to do with copper here. Maybe if I really wanted a low risk entry, a reclaim of the 50-day. Let's just see if it could stay weak today and then tomorrow reclaim the 50-day. That would be a pretty good look. And then play something like, oh, FCX. Holy fuck. Man, these things are just rough. This market's just ass. PL Planet selected as prime under $151 billion shield IDIQ. I don't even know what the hell that means. I don't know what the hell that means, but something. DOCN. Not bad. If software ever gets its shit together, DOCN's a name I'd like to own. Do I look at pre-market? Yeah, I do. I look at pre-market, especially if like a stock is gapping up on good earnings. But I mean, in terms of like just tech or whatever, it's kind of a crappy market. But yes, if I'm like looking to form a bias, look, I prefer to buy a gap down versus buy a gap up. So if I were to get involved today and the market starts to act better intraday, today is the kind of day I'd like to get involved. But the one thing that I'll say is the market itself has been just kind of building and building and building underneath the 50 simple moving average for a handful of weeks. It's just very choppy out here, man. I really, really want to do less in these kind of environments. When the environment gets better, it's much easier to execute. So much easier to execute. Speaking of, how are these cryptos doing? Ethereum still acting pretty damn crappy. LASR parabolic. Yes. I mean, one more up day like today. One more gap up. Wow. Do I see any possible shorts on my watch list? Any kind of strength in the in the memories, I think those can be shortable. But problem is they are gapping down right now, so I don't really want to short them. But if SNDK can give us like a big morning drive, you know, like this nice little 20-point push into like $600, 605-ish, that would be very nice to potentially short that. Etsy into the flattening, declining 50-day. God, this chart looks absolutely miserable too. No, I don't always wait for it to get back above the above VWAP. Not always. Yeah, a lot of gap downs in the ITA sector. What are we going to do about that? Alcoa. Amir, I made a video about this before. Go on my YouTube, and I did a video about scanning for leaders, scanning for momentum, and scanning for leading groups. CCJ, yeah, gave it all back. And then U is another one. So let me look at URNM. Yeah, URNM kind of gave it back too. Crummy market. Yeah, TLT. Money's going to the US dollar. Yeah, even TLT bonds are going down. US dollar, though, it's not bad. Dollar index. It's going to the dollar. SATS, not bad. Yeah, not bad. Just choppy, man. Just choppy. I don't want to run myself over by taking far too many trades this month. So February finished out green, not like some massive month or anything, but it finished out green. And, I'd like to just execute a little bit slower in this choppy environment in March. If we can get pushes against declining moving averages like an AVGO, that's where I want to short. If we can get undercut and rallies, that's where I'm looking to long. Scott, I don't understand the question you're asking. An undercut and rally is when you undercut a certain price level and then you rally back through. Brent crude, WTI. That is a hell of a move. ConocoPhillips. How do we know when a choppy period is over? When the market breaks out itself. The market has now created a really nice range to work with, but it's really not even that. It's when you're able to buy a breakout and it actually goes higher, right? And you're dealing with less choppiness. SAS compounder bigger, if you're asking about mine, and it just depends if a stock has enough liquidity. I have a hard time like an AOI. Like I have a hard time, putting $2 million into an AOI. It just moves way too quick for my liking. So ultimately, it just depends on the stock that I'm trading, right? Putting like $2 million into like a Tesla, a whole lot easier, right? You only need to get 5,500 shares or something like that. A little bit less. So it's just kind of my thinking. I don't like to position size too big into very fast names, although they can make great moves. That something that moves 8, 9, 10, 11% per day doesn't make me feel very comfortable. Yeah, FSLY was fine. And it's really nice to see the follow through. FSLY is the kind of name where you hope the market rolls over. This one continues to just go sideways. And then you get an opportunity to buy this thing back at the HVC. Just continue to chop sideways, and then eventually you can find yourself in a little tight day against the 20. Yeah, FSLY is fantastic. No, I didn't get long the dollar. I shorted gold. So I mentioned the strength in the dollar yesterday, and so I got short gold. And the dollar pushed higher again today, and then gold gaps down. So, about a 6.5% gap down in GDX, which is what I'm short. And then I also mentioned emerging markets. And normally when the dollar's going higher, that directly affects their earnings. And so also, expecting to see some pressure in emerging markets, which have been very, very strong as of late, right? EM has been a monster, which is emerging markets. And all that is fine, or EWY, right? I mean, this is just kind of insane when you think about it. And now all of a sudden you've got this really ugly 11.5% gap down. So, but it has more to do. Obviously, South Korea. It's because Samsung is down, and of course that's kind of the reasoning that people will give you. But the reality is I believe it's actually down because of the dollar being up, and that's exactly why you've got gap downs in like an EWZ as well, and why you have a gap down in all of the others, right? All the other emerging markets. Do I build a position by incrementally splitting up the buys? Not always. There are times I just buy what I need all at one go, because my stop is very tight to begin with. And then there are other instances where, like, I want to be in a bigger position, and so I will add on to it multiple times. And I'm always adding when I'm right. I'm never adding when I'm wrong. Like, I'm consistently adding to my position as I'm already in the green. And I think about adding more, if I like didn't own it to begin with. So like, what's the daily setup I'm working with, and then add to it as if I didn't own it at all. Thoughts on NOW? This isn't a downtrend. Like, maybe software eventually starts to get going, but this is just a downtrend. If I'm going to play a software related name, I'm just going to buy the IGV. I'm not going to play any individual software stock. No, I don't use fibs, but yes, a pullback into a retracement and then you start to turn back up, but I don't use fibs. Yeah, I don't use that exact formula. I just do some quick math in my head. The first thing I really like to think about is just, where is my stop? How expensive is the stock? And how many dollars will I lose? Yeah, wheat, soybeans, corn, those commodities have been acting really well. Yeah, you. We'll see what happens. I don't know that I'm going to buy a pullback to the 21 day or the 20 day. A little too choppy here, but yes, I mean, I am watching a UUU. I'll be watching it with like a URA. You'll notice how it looks fairly similar, and a URNM. So we'll see what happens. Why GDX instead of Nugget? I mean, I could have done Nugget as well. I just had my eyes burned onto GDX, so I just got GDX. Could have done Nugget too. Even bigger gap down in this Nugget percentage-wise. Oof, 13%. Yikes. I don't know the Compounding Eagle. I don't know the answer to that question. Do I think that the DXY is only making a short-lived bounce? Maybe. I don't know the answer to that question. The one thing I will tell you about gold, though, is this isn't like some new run, right? This has been in an uptrend for a while. So, could it be that we're just gapping down and then we're just going to come bump into the 50-day again and we're just going to chop around here for a little while? Yeah, I think it's totally possible. So, but, for now, my stop is going to be break even at this point. So there's a 0% chance that I take a loser on this trade. And, I'm kind of just targeting like the 20-day and then maybe even the 50-day, cover some off and then trail some on these declining 60-minute moving averages. And if we can get below the 20, then use that like 20-day as my guide. So, yeah, I'm really not trying to overthink it. I just noticed the strength in the dollar yesterday. And then so I just knew that could lead to some pressure in the metals, and that could likely lead to some pressure in emerging markets, right? We that's something you should know about the dollar. Dollar up, bad for emerging markets. Dollar down, good for metals, right? Money leaves somewhere. It typically goes somewhere else. So I knew that correlation was there, and it looked like the dollar has maybe bottomed. So It was just a matter of getting positioned and then just letting it work. So, yeah, you could buy dust as well. Yeah, you could buy. I mean, dust was buyable. It wouldn't have maybe made you so comfortable to hold it into the close yesterday, which is, where a lot of people will struggle, right? They'll see this thing kind of fade off, and then all of a sudden they don't really want to hold it into the close. Can't really blame you. So, like, if you bought it in here and then this is how it closes, that's not going to make a lot of people comfy. But the reason I go with something like GDX versus like dust is, I don't want to have to buy 250,000 shares of dust. So, I'd rather just short 10, 12, 15,000 shares of GDX. Whole lot easier to get positioned into something like that. I did. Yeah, I learned from Mark Minervini, Dan Zanger, Christian Kulamagi, Pat Walker, Gil Morales, Nate. I've learned from so many people throughout my career, and I'll just like steal a little something from all of their trading styles and then trading methodologies and apply it to my own, kind of mold it to the, to like my own playbook, and then go from there. All right, guys, I got to get my butt moving. Time to start some stream. I will see you guys bright and early tomorrow morning. Keep it safe out there. And I will see you guys tomorrow. And thank you guys for the good blessings. So wedding was awesome. I will see you guys tomorrow. Later.